C-SPAN's local content vehicles are traveling the country, visiting congressional districts to look at the most closely contested House races in this year's midterm elections.
This evening, here in the historic Smoot Theater in Parkersburg, voters in West Virginia's 1st Congressional District will have their first opportunity to see the candidates on the same stage.
I want to see Washington take a different direction. To begin that journey, my first vote in Congress will be to replace Pelosi as the Speaker with a leader who can create jobs in the private sector, can reduce the size of government, and adhere to the Constitution and its principles.
Without apology, I'm pro-life, I'm pro-gun, and I'm committed to fiscal responsibility. I believe Washington has gotten it wrong, especially during these past 2 administrations, when it comes to dealing with this enormous entity we call the federal government.
There are 2 candidates in the race for Congress in the 1st District. There's Democrat Mike Oliverio, a state senator, and Republican David McKinley. This is a seat that was held for many years by Alan Mullihan, a Democrat. And Mullihan was defeated in the primary by Mike Oliverio. It was a bit of an upset. Mike Oliverio is a native of Morgantown, and his government roots go way back. He was the WVU student body president. Then he got out and he got elected to the legislature. He's run for Secretary of State before, and he lost in that race. But he's always been hovering around there, and he's always had aspirations for higher office. David McKinley is from Wheeling, West Virginia. He's been involved in politics off and on all his life. He was in the legislature a couple of different times. He's a former Republican Party chairman. He's run for governor before and was unsuccessful in his attempt to run for governor. So he's been there as well. And when the mood of the country evolved as it did, then McKinley saw this as an opportunity as well to get in the race and has run a very aggressive campaign. The 1st Congressional District covers the northern portion of West Virginia, northern panhandle, north central part of the state, and it runs along the Ohio River. West Virginia is predominantly a Democratic state. Registration is 2-to-1. And in each of the congressional districts, each of the 3, it's roughly 2-to-1 Democratic. However, in West Virginia, it's also a very conservative state. So there are many Democrats who are, some would say, Democrats in name only, or they are conservative Democrats.
The big issues for me are Obama health care, which is very unpopular in this state, cap and trade, which is very unpopular in this state, big government, which is very unpopular in this state.
The economy, definitely fixing the out of control debt and bringing jobs back to an area like West Virginia that's so rooted in industry.
I think the doing away with the tax cuts is going to really hurt a lot of people.
Jobs, especially in the Obamacare healthcare bill. I think that jobs are really important right now, and that politicians really need to focus on them. And I think that's gotten lost from 2008 to now.
I don't want a salesman. I don't want somebody who can spout bumper stickers. I want somebody who can work with the others, even if he doesn't necessarily have the same views that I have.
When you actually compare Oliverio and McKinley, they might not like this, but they're probably closer on a lot of things than you might have in some races across the country. Clearly, David McKinley is a conservative Republican. He wears that mantle proudly. Oliverio would be a conservative Democrat. So they're probably a little bit closer on some of these big issues than the campaigns would have you believe. There is some nuanced difference, for example, on the health care bill, whereas one wants to get rid of it, one says, I don't like big government, but let's try to fix it. They both, for example, are against cap and trade, which is a huge issue in West Virginia. So there you'd have agreement. Again, they would have a nuanced fight about it, but they would both vote against cap and trade. So even though they are from different parties and they have differences in this campaign, philosophically, they actually have some similarities. You might think that Nancy Pelosi, like a lot of places, is running for office in West Virginia.
I am not going to support Nancy Pelosi. He is. That's the most important vote, as you well know, in Congress, is who's going to be the Speaker of the House. I'm voting for John Boehner. He's voting for Nancy Pelosi.
David McKinley has run many ads that aligns Mike Oliverio with Nancy Pelosi, and a vote for Mike Oliverio is a vote for Nancy Pelosi, because Pelosi, Reid, Obama, not very popular at all in West Virginia. So issue number one has been the Obama administration and Nancy Pelosi Harry Reid, but not in the House race. So that has dominated the discussion for much of this campaign.
We're making it very clear that I'm not running for Congress to get in step with the Washington leaders. I'm running for Congress to get them in step with the people of West Virginia.
There's a tremendous amount of ads running. In fact, you get to the last couple weeks of the campaign and every commercial has an ad from McKinley or an ad from Oliverio. So the airwaves are just inundated with all these political ads. And the campaign has gotten fairly nasty in the last couple of weeks because the polls all indicate that this is a close race. And I'm sure that each of candidates figures that 1% or 0.5% is vital. Mike Oliverio tells an interesting story. He's told it many times to the press. He said earlier in this campaign, he ran positive ads about himself and his lead evaporated. So he said, I'm done with that. I'm going to go more aggressive. So both candidates have been extremely aggressive in the last couple of weeks, and the charges have been flying back and forth here in these final days of the campaign. This has really been historic in West Virginia. We tend not to throw out incumbents. And this year, Alan Mullahan, the longtime incumbent in the 1st District, was defeated in the primary. Senator Byrd died in June, and releasing all this pent-up opportunity for Republicans and Democrats. The national trend has a Republican inspired in the 3rd District in West Virginia. So we have a very intense, close Senate race, which we haven't had in years, and we have 2 out of 3 very intense and close congressional races. We haven't had that in West Virginia for a while, so this is one of our more interesting political periods we've had in some time.
Leading up to the November 2nd midterm elections, we're traveling the country and visiting congressional districts where some of the most closely contested House races are taking place. For more information on what the local content vehicles are up to this election season, visit our website, cspan.org/LCV.